Welcome, everyone. We are happy you are viewing this presentation. My name is Kathy Bruno Paparelli, and I'm here today with my partner, Stephen Dutch. We are educational consultants for the Executive Leadership Institute, which is the professional development arm of the Council of Supervisors and Administrators based in New York City. We are both former high school principals and now conduct professional development services sessions on a variety of topics. In New York City, there are more than 1,800 public schools, serving nearly 1 million students in grades pre-K through 12. Over the last 5 years, New York City has made a major commitment to providing bully-free schools, which are safe and welcoming for students and staff to express their sexual orientation and gender identities. Steve and I have written numerous workshops and professional development sessions which train and prepare school leaders, teachers, and school staff with strategies to create safe, bully-free environments in their schools.
Hello, everyone. Today, our focus will be to discuss with each other and to stimulate your thinking on how gender identity and sexual orientation issues impact schools and the ways to build the capacity of our staffs and community. Next slide. Over the last generation, new conversations around sexuality and gender have emerged. In New York City, over the past few years, there has been an attempt to keep pace with the lives of youth and to bridge the gap between generations in regards to sexuality and gender identity. Today, we are going to share strategies on how to revisit practices and ways to build students' identity, gender preference, and ways to ensure that students don't feel marginalized or unsafe.
This workshop will encourage participants to answer 3 main questions. What are the ways in which young people are defining and describing their own sexual orientation and gender identity? What is the relationship between young people's sexuality and gender in relation to their personal well-being and experiences at home, in school, and in the community? How can school personnel create more inclusive environments for youth, and how can they support parents? So we'd like you to begin to examine these questions and answer them in a way that best serves the community in which you live. As educators, it's our responsibility to include all stories that represent our collective narrative. Research has taught us this. Exposure to an inclusive LGBTQ+ affirming curriculum positively impacts culture.
Well, let's look at this slide. We've kind of simplified things to cover the topics that we're covering today. If we look at the rainbow umbrella, we see the LGBTQ umbrella. And we're talking here about gender and about sexuality. Under the umbrella of gender, you're going to hear very often the term cisgender or transgender. There are cis men and cis women. Cisgender is identifying with the gender you were assigned at birth. Transgender means that you are transitioning to a gender other than what you were assigned at birth. And you may begin to hear these terms frequently: trans man, trans woman, trans boy, trans girl, non-binary, genderqueer, gender fluid, or agender. We believe that these are terms that you should become comfortable in using, and terms in which your staff members and parent community should have a complete understanding of. The other side of the umbrella is sexuality. There's gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, and straight. There is an overlapping in the two. For example, someone who's gay can be cisgender. Someone who's gay can also be transgender.
The best way I always describe this, is an easy way to remember it, is that your gender identity is who you go to bed as, and your sexual orientation is who you go to bed with. So as Steve just said, you can be gay and cisgender, meaning you are gay, but you identify as a male, whoever you were born assigned at birth. Okay. So let's look at this quote, queer and proud. Even as a slur, queer describe those who exist outside of what society mandates. Once a slur for LGBTQ plus people, the word queer has evolved through reclamation to be a word synonymous with not straight or not cisgender. It is an umbrella term, but it is not a word every LGBTQ plus person identifies as, uses, or is comfortable with. So you have to really understand your community when using this word. It's a personal word, and it has to be someone comfortable using it and using it to describe themselves.
With the information that we just shared with you, let's look at how school environments need to improve. According to the 2019 National School Climate Survey, nearly 60% of LGBTQ students feel unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation. Nearly 67% of students report hearing negative teacher comments about gender expression. And finally, nearly 73% of students do not report incidents because they do not think their school staff would do anything. Think about the community in which you're coming from. Think of the students that you serve within that school. Does your LGBT student population feel safe or unsafe? How do you know they feel safe? What evidence do you have to attest to the fact that they feel comfortable in your school? Do they hear negative comments from teachers? Do they hear negative comments from peers? How do you deal with these types of situations within your school? Do you have a policy developed to be able to handle situations such as this? How many students do you think in your school do not think that anything would be done in their school if they reported feeling unsafe or hearing negative comments? So take a moment to think about your school, what the current state of your school is like, and what you would like your school to be like. It's a challenging task because even in New York City, we're really no better. According to a 2016 CDC survey of New York City students, LGBT students report being bullied twice as often as regular students, skipping school 2 times more often because they feel unsafe, and contemplating or attempting suicide 3 times more than other students. And we're talking about New York City, where work has been done in this area for the last 4 or 5 years. What is happening in your school, in your community, in your country, and what do you think you as an individual can do to improve the conditions within your school?
So if you leave with nothing else, please understand that you can make a difference. Let's look at this suicide attempt rate among those with accepting adults. It is far, with no accepting adult, it is far greater than someone who's young, who has at least one accepting adult in their life. LGBTQ plus youth who report having at least one accepting adult were 40% less likely to report a suicide attempt in the past year. And you can be that difference. It's as simple as being non-judgmental, be a safe haven for students who come to you with questions, with concerns. You can provide information. You can simply provide information that will be helpful if you do nothing else. And more importantly, provide support. Provide support for their feelings, for their needs. That's the greatest gift you can give.
So expanding on what Kathy just shared, how can we engage and create intentional supports for our students? Do we have inclusive and representative curriculum embedded into lessons and teaching? Take a moment to think about your school. Think about your classroom. Is your classroom inclusive and representative in the curriculum that you present to the students, to all the students in your classes? Have pedagogy for everyone. Avoid gendered teaching practices. What does that mean? Think of if you are gearing students into specific careers or concepts simply based on their gender. You need to take the time to address language and incidents in your classroom that put other students down. You need to ensure that you don't pressure students to fit into stereotypes or pick labels, and acknowledge LGBTQ plus identities year-round, not just in Pride Month, Pride Day. So as you look at these 5 bullets, what is the current state in the school that you are coming from? What would you like it to look like? And what is the roadmap that you need to embark on to move it from the current state to the desired state?
So here are 5 simple suggestions to show that you're an ally to your students or members of your community. Look at the simple badge in the corner of the screen. It's a tiny little piece of cardboard that says that it's safe to be here in this building. So number 1, show that you understand the concepts of sexual orientation and gender identity. Do the work. Really dig into what those 2 concepts mean and how you can show support by knowing the difference between the 2. Number 2, raise your competence by talking about these issues. Spread knowledge and don't shy away from talking with students. Students want to know that you're available to them to discuss these issues and topics, and that you're not going to shy away or run into your office and close the door and say, I'm not comfortable with this. So that's a second way you can really show you're there to support them. 3, be visibly supportive. Show students you're comfortable and approachable, and that whatever they say to you will remain confidential. And once again, they're in a safe place. Make time and space for LGBT students specifically. And that's as simple as having a gay straight alliance or a meeting place for them to come once a week or twice a week. And know when to seek extra help. That's our 5th suggestion. Know when this is beyond my scope. I need help to help this young person.
Hey, this was just a brief presentation to begin to make you think about these issues and how they relate to bullying and what are our responsibilities? We do believe that there is going to be a live portion now in which both Kathy and I will be able to answer any questions you might have. If you have additional questions, you can email Kathy or myself at the email addresses listed on this slide. If you would like any more information about this topic or supports for your school community, you could contact the Executive Leadership Institute at the email address that's listed on this screen again. Both Kathy and I thank you for tuning into this webinar, and we hope that it was supportive, and we hope you enjoy the rest of this conference.
Be well, everyone.